Greetings, YouTube. I imagine that most people watching this video either are currently or have, at least in the past, worked for somebody else. Maybe it was a small business, so the managerial hierarchy was one person or two people or something like that. Or it was a mega corporation spanning the globe. It's got 30,000, 50,000 employees, and you are just a number, just a button-pushing monkey as far as the company is concerned. That's kind of the situation I'm in. And over the decades, I've watched lots of different companies, both personally and through my friends and articles I've read and things like that. I've watched their internal managerial structure. And this is from medium-sized to very large corporations I've watched, and I mean personally. And one of the things I've noticed is that management seems to exist in a state of eternal hopefulness. That is, to say it is misplaced would be a vast understatement. It's one of the reasons you see the entire infrastructure we did during COVID fall apart, because no one prepared. There was no disaster preparedness plan. There was no, well, if we can't get this part from this place, do we have a backup plan? There was none of that. It just didn't exist. See, and this may be considered an unusual way of looking at this, but I've always kind of looked at a business as a submarine. You're a self-contained entity. Even if you are part of a fleet, you're still a self-contained entity. And some of your superstructure, some of the infrastructure of the vessel that you're in can fail and no one dies. You may be significantly inconvenienced, may be very unhappy, but no one is going to die and you are still going to accomplish your goal. But some of the stuff on board that vessel, if it fails, well now, you will not achieve your goal at best, and at worst, people start to die. So what you need to do is you need to identify those critical components and make sure you have contingency plans for those specific components of your vessel. I know you can't do it for everything. I am reasonable. I understand that. But there has to be specific components that must function for your vessel to accomplish its goal and bring its crew safely back to port. And that's how I've always viewed a company. I know that I am apparently in the minority, because most folks just seem to like hop in the boat and they just go. And we've recently seen in the little Titanic expedition what happens when you don't prepare your vessel properly, when you don't build it properly, when you don't support it properly, when you don't listen to the experts, when you don't have contingency plans. You die, and you take innocent people with you. Well, in a business, it just means you fail. You go bankrupt, and bunches of people now are unemployed. Or the company may continue to limp along, which you're having to lay people off or send them home because you don't have work for them. I've seen that happen recently. And I say recently, at the time of filming, last week at my company, we had to send people home because there was nothing for them to do, because we didn't have some of the things that we needed to do our jobs. Why? Because a significant piece of equipment at a supporting institution broke. And because that piece of equipment broke, everything came to a grinding halt. Management lives in a state of perpetual hope. The right now is all they care about. If everything is perfect right this moment, if everything is functioning right now, it's going to function forever. You don't have to worry about anything. It's running right now. It's working right now. We are golden. I'm going to lunch. Maybe I'll go play some golf later. And of course, when things do go bad, you get, and there's panic. It would be cartoonishly entertaining if it weren't so terrifying. realizing that your job's at risk because someone didn't plan, because that is your job. That's what you do. It's my job to make parts. It's barista's jobs to make coffee. It's construction people's jobs to build things. That's their job. And if the people who run the companies they work for don't do their jobs, we can't do ours. And I don't understand why that simple concept seems to be so complex for management. They don't seem to get it. They constantly seem to believe that if it's working right now, it'll work forever. I have a friend of mine used to work in the tech field, and he was a tech writer. And that's what all he did all day long was write technical manuals for products and for software and for physical devices and things like that. That's all he did. And the company screwed him over constantly. They wouldn't give him enough time to write the things that they had hired him to write. So he was, like many other technical writers, taking chunks from other technical manuals that have already existed and plugging them into the new one, which is why when you read technical manuals sometimes, they don't seem to make any sense, because the person trying to write them is under such a crunch time that they can't write them. So they're doing the best they damn can. But one time this company hired an efficiency expert. And the expert took all these people, stood in front of them and said, if you can go 1 minute without making a reject, you can go 5 minutes without making a reject. If you can go 5 minutes without making a reject, you can go an hour without making a reject. And if you can go an hour without making a reject, then you can go all day without making a reject. Now, I don't know how much money this dude made for that speech, but everyone in that audience looked at him like, you are a goddamn idiot. Because that speech has no connection whatsoever to the real world. At all. None. If you can make a part right now and it's good, cool. Next one may be a reject. Why? Because the device that makes the parts doesn't operate like this. It doesn't. You don't set the parameters on a machine and the machine goes and runs perfectly, evenly, absolutely where you set it. No, machines do this. And so the smart people, they set the parameters. So when it's at the nadir of that little wave form, that they're not going to have the thing fall apart or make rejects. But it means that when it's at the apex, then you have other kinds of problems because, well, it's overperforming in some way. In my case, I make parts, which usually means there's too much rubber, which means that can cause all kinds of problems. Sometimes just inconvenient problems with the person operating the press, and sometimes reject type problems. But there's nothing we can do about it. The machines do this. Every single time you hit the go button on a press, it's rolling dice. You are rolling percentiles every time you hit that button. And all you can do is stack the probabilities in your favor. Do everything you can to think of every bonus you've got in your skill of machine operation and pray that when you hit that button, it's going to work. But sometimes you roll a 1 and you got to reject. And there's nothing in the universe that is going to prevent that. Nothing. How many people out there who work in manufacturing run machines that don't leak air, oil, coolant of some variety? How many? Tell me. Your machines run pristinely every day. I can tell you mine don't. All of them leak one or all of those things. Sometimes detrimentally. I've had machines drip hot liquids on me before because they weren't maintained. Because again, management lives in a state of eternal hope. So this has been slightly cathartic for me to kind of talk about this. I apologize, I've been rambling for a bit. So let's talk about places we do work or have worked. Our experiences with management. What are they like? Let's discuss these things. I mean, if nothing else, it might be cathartic for us.